Sorry.
Hayden, have you felt because I have to tell you, in the United States, there's nobody who's been watching politics over here who doesn't recognize that we've been very, very, very divided because of the presidency of Donald Trump. But honestly, because of how weird all of this stuff has been and how like unpredictable it's been, people have been coming together quite a bit. It's very similar or reminiscent to how things were after 9/11. Now, you guys over there certainly in England have been split on politicians, and Boris Johnson's a good example of that.
Yeah.
Have you seen people coming together and getting rid of partisanship over this, or what?
It depends where you look, doesn't it? I mean, you know, I like to hang out on Twitter because I can start a fight in an empty room on there. And
I've seen
I,
that.
I was poorly the other day. I woke up and it was about 4 o'clock in the morning. Within half an hour, I'd been blocked by that ninja guy that
Yeah,
plays Fortnite for a living. Just
great.
because I said everyone that watched him is either a child, an incel, or a paedophile. I didn't see that this was in any way inaccurate, but he took umbrage with it, as did many of his friends and followers. But if you go on Twitter, everyone's so polarized.
Yeah.
And one of the massive problems we talk about a lot is politicians go on, and I think this is where our problems really stem. They'll go on there and think, we should appease those people,
Hmm.
making
Yeah.
the same mistake people on Twitter do, which is thinking that they're fucking important. Because before the UK election, if you were on Twitter, you'd think Labour were going to win by a landslide, we were going to stay in the EU, it was all done and dusted. Turns out Twitter isn't the real world. So we're still seeing that. We've got
That's
this.
something a lot of people need to hear.
Sure.
We've got the same divisions as the US, only it's a bit more of a split. We don't have a two-party split. We have a 3 or 4 party split, but primarily you'll have Conservatives, Tories, and Labour supporters, and
I'll tell
that'll never change. That'll
I'll
never
tell
change.
I'll tell you one thing that's changed here quite a bit, Hayden, and like obviously politics over here are a bit different and a bit less varied than they are there. But somebody in the chat, Dunk Naylor, says universal basic income will become the norm. And we just had somebody who ran for president here. Andrew Yang is his name. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
Yeah.
And Andrew Yang was arguing that there should be a universal basic income for Americans of $1,000 a month. And that's kind of far out over here. Like people will go, oh, wow, we're not giving people free money. Get out there, pull your bootstraps up. This is going to happen. And out of nowhere, of all the things you could have expected to happen this year, we now have this overshadowing the election. And Andrew Yang was talking about $1,000 a month universal basic income. And now here in the United States, we're talking about sending $2,000 to every person who makes under $75,000 a year. So this is radically changing the way capitalism, the way socialism, the way economics are viewed here in the United States, because so many people, especially people under 45, especially people without a huge 401k, or people that got drilled on their 401k and investments, they really feel like they're being screwed here.
Well, I always thought capitalists, because I'm not a socialist. I'm definitely not a socialist, but I do like capitalism tempered with social conscience. I think that's how countries operate their finest. I always tell people that are into capitalism, you probably think of yourself as a hard worker and potential entrepreneur. No business ever succeeded without investment of some kind. Every dollar you put into healthcare, universal healthcare, for example, every dollar you put into education provides you with a better end product for your country. A healthier, better educated populace will be more productive. They will generate more income, more revenue. The country will thrive. But we get kind of hooked up on, but we're giving people something for nothing. And what if they're just abusing it as if, the media don't help with this as well, because they look at the abusers and they report the stories, and no one ever tells you what a tiny percentage of people they really are. So I always look at it as it's an investment in the country, it's an investment in the people. But I do know that over here it's difficult. In the US, that must be a massive hurdle to try and overcome.
It's a lot. Yeah.
But a huge virulent plague will probably make people think a little differently about putting the hand out. Because sometimes you put your hand out because you need a hand. You know, it's not begging. It's like, shit, I'm in trouble, help me. And why wouldn't you? If you could do that rather than people lose their homes, the jobs, everything, and then this thing turns from a 1 or 2 year disaster with 30 years consequence into a 10-year disaster with multi-generation consequence, why wouldn't you spend, was it $1 trillion in the US they're looking at? Why wouldn't you spend that?
One to two, yeah.
Well,
I mean,
not?
the other thing that we're thinking, and I think we're kind of Celia and myself, we're hoping heavily on this, is that, you know, you have sent, right now that we're in sort of an in-between stage, you've sent Prince Harry and Meghan Markle over to Canada, and eventually they're going to seep down into the United States and California. So we're just hoping that maybe as a result of you shipping them over here, we'll get like $1 trillion or something, you know. So if we have to deal with them,
like a dowry, or,
yeah,
you know,
just
some
what,
sort of thing.
like we'll set up like a Venmo or a Cash App, and
sadly, guys, you've got to talk to Canada.
Yeah, for now.
Canada will probably say yes.
Yeah.
So it's
cool,
fine.
Yeah.
They're very polite. And they understand what makes for good bacon. So, no, they'll be fine. They'll be absolutely fine with that. See, Trump should have said they'd pay for the wall. Would have saved a lot of trouble.
They would have done it.
Of course they would. It'd be impolite to say no.
I do like, and there is something very interesting happening here, where forgive me, I'm not trying to sound like, I don't know if this translates well overseas, but Alex Jones, but the globalism and Marxism and all of these things, I mean, undoubtedly in culture and in news and in media, were on the march. And what's amazing is everybody thought they had this way to tamp down on that. And I think populism might have been on the rise as a result. You got President Trump here in the U.S. and you have your world leaders shift over there, and you have all of these different things that are happening. But the reality of it all is nobody anticipated that we would actually, for once in a long time, have a real problem.
Yeah. Yes.
And that real problem has caused all this globalism to sort of minimize, and all this talk of open borders and immigration and all of these things that were very openly discussed. And let's look at Merkel in Germany. She was
she's in quarantine.
Right.
Yeah,
Borders as you can get, and now she's in quarantine, and now everybody's shutting down those borders, and literally the United States is on lockdown. You know, Mexico wants to shut a border with us. Canada and us are shutting
That's
a border.
a first.
Yeah,
I was going to say that's awesome. And in Mexico going, oh, no, fuck this.
Yeah, you know what? We were wrong on the wall. We'll chip it. So,
Well, it's the weird thing with all that, though. You know, like everyone talks about the origin of this novel coronavirus getting out there, and some people are still following the narrative that, you know, some dirty fucker ate a pangolin and somehow that set it all off. Never mind the